Welcome into Believe in Kentucky alongside Aaron Gershaw from the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy. Appreciate everybody that takes the time to check us out. Coming to y'all courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. And if you watch us on YouTube, subscribe, hit the little bell notification. That way it'll come to you every episode that pops up. Or if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us the 5-star rating, leave a review, and we definitely appreciate all of that. AG, man, how's the portal juggling going on football and basketball?
Yeah, it's chaos, man. It's you got two portals open at once. Basketball is still open until the 22nd. Football just opened up today. It's open for 10 days, and obviously had some flurry of announcements that began on Monday as Kentucky kind of started some spring exit meeting / workouts and whatnot going on over there on that side of campus. So it's chaos right now. It's two different free agents. Imagine MLB or imagine having NBA and NFL free agency at the same time. That's basically where we're at. It's a little bit of a lighter free agency on the football side, but when you have what happened with Nico Imanlava or whatever, however you pronounce that last name, and that whole situation, just no one's safe these days. Anything can happen, and basketball, we've obviously seen some mass chaos, and we're still about 6 days away from it officially closing to undergrads, and it's still chaotic, and Kentucky still has another hole to fill that we'll get into that, I'm sure, plenty here tonight. But it's chaotic. It could be frustrating at times just because it's such a different sport, I guess, than so many people grew up with, and even what it was 3 years ago. But there's also some fun in the chaos as well, trying to put pieces together. I mean, you see it right now, like us in this industry, we're getting things quote unquote wrong more than ever because this stuff just changes on a dime. It literally, no pun intended, because every dollar, man, it's chaotic, and you have guys who double dip in this portal. You have portal decommitments. You have, all the momentum's on one side, and someone makes an offer that's a little bit more, or they, in the case that we'll get into on this one, they offer the services of an assistant coach with Connect. It's chaos, and that's kind of how you can sum it up.
So I guess if we were to backtrack, since we, it's not like we do an episode after every portal addition or subtraction or something like that, but it seems like 5 years ago now, but right after I think we finished last week, Caden Lewis decommits, and that was the news of the day a couple of days ago. It seems like a month ago, but it was just last week. And I know you put out, you had the article, you had the story updated on it, and I think you said something to the effect of, a crowded backcourt or something like that. And he's
I
I
think the biggest thing is that was kind of my reaction. Is like, there's definitely playing, and especially with the way that Kentucky plays, like Mark Pope doesn't want to play guy 30 plus minutes much. He's all about I think he uses it, fresh bodies or energy team, whatever that phrase is. And obviously that was like one of the few things that fans took issue with last year, is he kind of shortened the leash. or why are you not shortening the leash? Like, Amari's clearly better than BG. Let Amari play 30 minutes, but that's just not how Pope operates. So I think Caden was in position to be the backup too. Now it's going to kind of be, it's going to be interesting to see how they fill this. I wouldn't say, again, it's even hard to know if this is the last spot or not, because we still don't know exactly how many scholarships they have. It's either going to be 13 or 15. They're at 12 right now. But I've heard the biggest thing with the kid in Lewis, and it's been widely reported, so I'm not breaking any news here, is, Kentucky, you look at Donovan Dent was their first target at point guard. Obviously, he goes to UCLA. Then they kind of zeroed in on Jalen Lowe. And Jalen Lowe, unlike Donovan Dent, has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So Lewis felt like it was a situation where he'd probably be coming off the bench for 2 seasons, when the hope was, okay, play 1 year behind Dent or another senior point guard, like that's fine. But they brought in a multi-year guy, and I'm not going to say he didn't want to compete because I don't think that's fair. But clearly, he and his camp felt it wasn't the best situation for him at this point in time, and they move on. So is what it is. That's where we're at in college basketball these days. I do feel bad for freshmen. I think it's harder than ever to be a freshman these days, just given how much attention's on the portal. You have coaches like Rick Pitino who flat out said, like, we're not, I don't believe it because it's ironic because a kid in Lewis just visited St. John's, but Rick Pitino's like, we're not recruiting freshmen anymore. You can't win with freshmen. So it's a tough spot. Like I do sympathize with that, but it's hard not to call it what it is. He didn't want to deal with the guy with multiple years left. That's whether it was him or his camp. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he truly feels that way, but his camp did.
Yeah. And crowded backcourt, yes, but also I look at it on the roster as it stood last week. Excuse me, there were only 3 true point guards on the roster. We had Lowe, Lewis, and then Travis Perry. Who's to say he doesn't come in and outshine Jalen Love?
That's the thing. Go compete. Go earn the job.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think it comes from the – these kids are wired differently, man. Like, they're competitors for the most part. You have some kids who aren't. But – and, you go back and look at all the quotes that Lewis had. I tried to pull one up here. I couldn't get it in time. But, he seemed more than willing to go and compete for his playing time. And so that, to me, says, okay, there are people in his ear. Like – I don't really want to go. We'll just knock it out now. The whole thing with Nico in Tennessee, you can't convince me that's what Nico wanted. I will not be convinced of that. I think how could you objectively? You're the starting quarterback in Tennessee. You play in one of the best offensive quarterback-friendly schemes in America. You're making $2 million. You have a great team around you. You're playing in the best league in front of some of the most rabid fans in college football that have defended you, despite the fact you were kind of mediocre last year. There's no way that's what he wanted. That was all his dad or whatever his camp was. There's no freaking way that Nico right now is happy about the situation. I just don't believe it. I think he's a competitor. And so that's not to say I think Caden Lewis is bummed that he's not coming here. I don't want to speak for him, but from what I was reading of the things he was saying this time in November, he doesn't seem like a kid who was shy when it came to competition. It just feels like that's what the advice was, and he ran with it.
Yeah, and some of the advice just isn't good. Like you mentioned with Nico, it probably is his dad, and he was the one that's driving that movement and negotiation and ultimatums and everything that happened, even going back to before the Ohio State game. Apparently, several were going in wanting a raise because, hey, we're playing 13 games, we're only getting paid for 12, and that, So it's just been a mess, and like you said, now you're at Tennessee. Now you're going to go. Apparently now UCLA, according to Bruce Feldman and David Ubben, he's going to UCLA. Probably going to make less.
Yeah,
you're playing in the Big Ten, but UCLA in
it's
that
UCLA.
Conference,
they had I think I saw they had the 121st ranked defense last year, or offense, excuse me, where Tennessee is in the top 10 in offense over here. Come on now. There's no way this is what Nico wanted. I won't. And unless he came out and before all this and said he was terribly homesick because he's a California kid, I can't buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love how that Colin Coward's reporting today. Nico is unhappy with the offense, so he's going to go to UCLA and play. Who just fired Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy couldn't fix their offense, so that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And again, I don't think I'm just. Again, I don't know. I'd love to get the true word out of Caden Lewis if this is really like how he feels, but it is what it is. And like you said, it feels like that was 2 months ago because what was that? Last Thursday night? Last Wednesday night?
Yeah.
So they've added one player since then. And I think it's Jelavic. We'll get the pronunciation down. They've lost the big recruiting battle with Wilkerson.
Yeah.
And it's just great. It goes so fast, man. It's crazy. It's warp speed. And today has like been one of the slower days. And it's also been a day where there's been a couple new names linked. It's just, it's crazy.
And last week I asked you just straight up on here, I said, do you think they get a stretch 4, or do they think that BG could be that guy? Because we all thought, okay, BG's leaving.
Right.
Not only does BG stay, then they go and get another stretch 4 type in Jelavic. So
yeah, I didn't see it coming. I'll be. I mean, I definitely didn't see it being just Jelavic. I don't think anyone did. I thought they were honestly probably done with the front court because they wanted Brandon Garrison to stay, which he officially announced he's going to, and they added Quaintance. They are bringing in Malachi. They brought in Diabate. Cam is kind of a tweener. Cam Williams kind of a tweener. Like, it didn't seem like there was room for another 4, but they sure the heck made it work with Jelavic. There's a lot of upside there. It's really hard with some of these international kids, like, to know the competition they're going against. So I don't really know how comparable what he was playing in Serbia is to the SEC, but he has all the tools Kentucky's looking for in a 4 guy who can shoot it, can put it on the deck and has some handles to him, can rebound, get physical. So it's a really good ad. We'll see where I know he's going to be 21, so he's definitely more mature and more grown into his body than most freshmen would be. It's definitely gonna be interesting. He's kind of going to be the new mystery man. It seems like outside of last year, like, you had Big Z, you had Ugana, you didn't know exactly what you were getting from those guys since they were international. Well, I guess Ugo played a year of prep ball, but still, mostly their careers were international and didn't know too much about them. So curious to see how he fits. But it's a cool addition. It's definitely different. Kentucky, I think it's only the 6th European in program history, 2nd from Croatia, obviously joining Big Z. So definitely, I love the idea and interested to see how it goes. But yeah, that was definitely that came out of left field. There's not one person I talked to. There were some, there's been a lot of talk that they've wanted to go the international route, that they're kicking the tires on some international kids, but that was never a name that got out there. So that one definitely came as quite a surprise.
Yeah, so, and everybody that wants to worry and be all in a panic again, they worried about how it looks, and then he's going and getting players you didn't even know he was looking at, and they're already on the team. So
yeah, it's just, you can't panic with this stuff, man. It's different than the high school stuff. Like, it's warp speed, it's dollars, it's transactional. It is what it is. There's not a loyalty aspect to it. Very few times there's a loyalty aspect to it. Like, it's who's offering the most money with the best role for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes to. And like, that's why Lamar Wilkerson, Mark Pope's getting killed on Twitter right now, mostly from Louisville fans, which is funny. And then, Indiana, they can celebrate all they want, whatever. Yeah. But it came down to 2 things, or really 3 things. One, money. Indiana outbid. Indiana needed bodies, and they were the more desperate team, so they put their best foot forward money-wise. DeVries, the new head coach there, goes and, is going to bring in one of the assistants that was close with Wilkerson from Sam Houston State, so you're sweetening the deal there. Mm-hmm. And then the role. Again, Indiana is building a roster they're in the same situation Kentucky was in this time last year, where they're building a roster entirely from scratch. I think they only had 3 or 4 players at the time they added Wilkerson. They need bodies. They need someone to kind of be the catalyst for that group. They had some nice pieces, like Reed Bailey's a good player. But they didn't have that one guy that was a needle mover to build around. And, Wilkerson was the guy they chose to be that. So you get more money, you get a bigger role, you get your assistant coach that you love to come with you. Mm-hmm. Hard to compete. If I'm Wilkerson, I probably do the same thing. I don't think, he had that one quote where he's like, I don't want to just be another guy. I mean, I don't love that quote. It definitely seems like I'm scared of competition. Was it probably taken out of context? Yes. But it was definitely a little eye-opening, a little weird. But I would have, if I were in his shoes, can I blame him too much? No. I mean, if you're getting more money, you're a 22-year-old kid, and you're going to get all the shots you want, and you're kind of being asked to be the star.
It's all set up for you to succeed. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If you can step into that role and be that guy. I mean,
yeah.
Your assistant coach, kind of like, Kay Cunningham, they brought his brother in or something at Oklahoma State or something like that. So, it's they set it all up for you, and more power to him. And he would have just been a guy here more than likely, because the rotation is bigger. Owe is already the guy. If he comes back, he's testing the waters. But
yeah, he would have played a big role here, and that's the thing. Like, being a guy at Kentucky, it is different. I mean, you can say what you want. It is like Ansley Almanor played 15 minutes per game, but the fact he accepted his role and had a couple clutch performances like at Tennessee and at Mississippi State that won those that played a big role in winning those games. Like, he's a guy who's loved here. Like, you don't have to do that much to become a guy that the fans really love here. So
put the ball on the floor when we hadn't dribbled all year and goes in and gets an and one. We're like, oh my God.
Like, there are very few players that this fan base just doesn't like. Like I know Aduthiero, Big Z, and DJ got booed. That's just like, that was more of a Calipari thing, and he's still a guy that everyone's going to love universally here once time heals with all this stuff. So it's just whatever, it's not that big of a deal. There's still, I would be lying, like, the portal is drying up a little bit. That was definitely the best available option for that position. But there's still plenty of options out there. Kentucky right now, just looking at it, obviously one thing with them you can't ever rule out is a surprise. Like, Kirk Risa came out of nowhere last year. Right. Jelavic, Brandon Garrison came out of nowhere last year. Jelavic came out of nowhere this year. So could there be a name that we're not even talking about? Sure. I don't think Ian Jackson's really an option. I've heard they've kind of kicked the tires there, but they're probably a little late to the party. Probably should have prioritized him over Wilkerson if they really, really wanted him. You got this Jameer Watkins out of Florida State, who's a top 10 ranked transfer. Not the best shooter, kind of low to mid 30s his whole career from three, and he's 6'7". So, 2, 3, does that get redundant? Do you just go with the talent and length? It's going to be interesting to see. Jeff Goodman said today that it was Louisville, Kentucky, and Illinois as the teams in the mix. He doesn't really fit Louisville right now. They're kind of set at that spot. Kentucky, I don't know. I see more of a fit than Louisville, but not really. And then Illinois seems like the best fit of those three. We'll see if that's accurate. And then tonight, they make contact with Jaden Glover out of St. John's, kid who was a top 80 prospect in the 24 class. Really didn't play much at all with the Red Storm this past year. 22 games off the bench. Didn't play in a game after February 12th. So that would be more. Look, and that's the thing too. If this is so, say there are 13 spots. I don't know. The debate they're probably having is, all right, do we go out and get a guy that's going to be our starting 2 or 3 or compete for it at least? Or do we go out and get like this Braden Hawthorne, who's the freshman out of West Virginia that they brought in for a visit today, or Jaden Glover, who's more of a low risk, high reward type where you're probably not going to have to pay as much money. He's not going to demand starting minutes, but maybe, he's a guy who you develop and becomes a surprise. So I'm curious to see how Kentucky's going to fill this spot. And, it's either I'm convinced even that they're probably done after one more guy, as long as they don't have any surprise departures here in the next 6 days. I'd be stunned if Otega Oweh's not back. He's doing the right thing, of course, to test the waters, and he has to, he's close enough to where he should and is doing. You have to go get the feedback. Like if you get a surprise, you got to go take it. I get it. I would be stunned if he's not back at Kentucky. So they're in a spot where they can. This is kind of like last year where they kept it. Last year they kept this spot open. They never filled it. I think they're going to fill it, and they're going to fill it within the next week or two here. Whether it's this week, next week, the week after, I don't know. But it's interesting. They could go one or two ways, or if it ends up being 15 scholarships, you could do both. So you just in that case you would have to kick. Then you have the walk-on situation where you might have to kick one or all of them to the curb. So it was losing Lamar Wilkerson to Indiana ideal? No. Is it the end of the world? Also, no. I still think this team has a higher upside than last year. Maybe not as great of a three-point shooting team as currently constructed, but definitely far more athletic, definitely a better rebounding team, definitely a better defensive team. I think better team in terms of scoring at the rim efficiency-wise, rim protection. I just think there's more upside here and more athleticism, more pure talent. But definitely in an ideal world, you're able to go get a shooter or at least another wing that fits you and is an impact maker. But we'll see. There's been no reason that this staff has given not to trust them yet. So I'm not gonna until they give me that. And like Cal, by the end, there was a reason why you couldn't trust. Mm-hmm. We're not even close to there yet. That's what it comes down to. There's no reason to doubt it yet. That they've been able to make it. They haven't really had a miss yet in their. Last year's roster. It was bad luck with Kerr Kriisa going down. He didn't end up making the impact you would have wanted. But I don't think anyone else on that roster was a miss.
Yeah, and you nailed it. If this team doesn't have as much firepower from deep as last year, you just don't have the snipers, you just don't have the shooters. What makes us think that Coach Pope and the staff won't scheme up the offense and taper it to the personnel to where they're still going to be efficient and still have the precision and cutting and zoom action if he wants to. But now the additional athleticism, the additional toughness, do they score more from in the paint? Do they change? He will tweak and adjust whatever he needs to still, because he's an offensive guy. He's not gonna have them chucking up threes if he doesn't have the shooters, but he's still gonna have them in the best position to put the ball in the basket, however that may be.
And look, Lamont Butler was never a great three shooter, and he had his best year shooting from three. Otagowe was, I guess, percentage-wise worse than he was at Oklahoma, but he was a guy who didn't feel terrible when he put the ball up. I mean, they're like you said, they're able to scheme guys open. They're guys like Kobe Brea became really good off the dribble. Like, there's an aspect too where you want to see improvement from each of these guys. And again, people are forgetting that Cam Williams was a freaking sniper last year. The dude shot 41% on over 150 attempts as a true freshman in a decent league. Like, they'll be fine. I'm not worried about them on the offensive side yet at all. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they fill this last spot, which route they go. But again, it's one thing if they've had repeated misses. That hasn't been the case here. So until that becomes a thing, I'm not going to doubt the moves they make.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Flipping to the women's side, we saw Georgia Amoore get drafted this week in the WNBA draft, number 6 overall to the Washington Mystics. So congratulations to her.
That's awesome.
Clothing line partnership with Russell Westbrook. So just a big night for her the other night with the outfit from Russ and them partnering up together and top 10 pick in the draft. And for those maybe not sure how extensive everybody followed the women's game. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Had some good teams under Matthew Mitchell, not so much under Coach Elsie. You see Brooks coming, went to the Final Four at Virginia Tech. You hear about Georgia Amoore. Okay. And then she comes over and is every bit as good as advertised and then some. in her 1 year at Kentucky. So, for her to exceed the hype was amazing. New
Oh
league,
yeah,
new team, new situation, and she didn't miss a beat on the floor.
yeah. She quickly became one of the most successful players in program history. I mean, just call it what it is. I mean, she's up there with the legends of this program, the Ryan Howards, Valerie Stills. I mean,
Yeah.
she's up there. So, incredible year she had and lived up, like you said, lived up to the hype and then some. And 6th overall pick. I don't know. I know. Obviously, Ryan went 1-1, so it's got to be one of the highest picks in program history, if not the second
Mhm.
highest.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
awesome stuff there, and wish her the best of luck, of course. And
And
yeah,
just terrorized Oklahoma. She had 43 against Oklahoma in Norman, and then OA puts 2 daggers in them.
yeah,
Just on the court, men's and women's, just nightmares for Oklahoma from at the hands of Kentucky this year, man.
yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, doesn't get much better than that. And it's a great recruiting tool for Kenny Brooks. Obviously, not that George Amore's been a household name for years now at Vatech, and obviously he's had a lot of success with a lot of different players. So he's a guy that can kind of recruit. He already has the recruiting chops, but can't hurt to have a top 6 pick on your resume. Add that to the list of accomplishments.
Yeah, for sure. Baseball is still on the bubble. Last 4 in. Last time I
Yeah.
looked, having a lot of 1-run losses, a lot of tough beats. Got a 1-run win last night against Miami, Ohio, so that was cool to see. Yeah, but the Louisville game, the series against Texas, they've had some where they've just had some heartbreakers
Yeah,
at
they
Tennessee
lose a
this
bunch.
weekend. So
Yeah, they lose a bunch of close games. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with college baseball. You just on the road, key is not getting swept. Try to go steal one. Obviously, they're in a position now where if they're going to make the tournament, they're going to have to go somewhere and play. But it's just the close losses. Something like 8 or 9 of their SEC games have been 1-run, or they've had a lead in them. It's just
yeah,
they haven't been able to close out games. They don't have the same. Robert Hogan was so good for them last year, and he's just had a terrible season,
yeah,
unfortunately. And they haven't had the same luck. I wouldn't say luck. Just they haven't had the same hit rate in the transfer portal as they've had. The Ryan Nicholsons, the Grant Smiths. Go down the list of all the great transfers that Ming just brought in. Ryan Waldschmidt. It just hasn't quite been to that level this year. Guys like Tyler Bell, like the true freshman, have been super exciting, and there's some young players you can definitely build around. But Nate Harris, I believe, is a freshman pitcher. So, there's a lot to work with in the future, but hasn't exactly lived up to the hype transfer class wise, and we'll see if they can make it into the dance.
yeah, yeah. And this heartbreak and tough beats on the field, and then tragically off the field. Richie Wells passing last week. We think that might have been right after we recorded, similar to the Caden Lewis news, but he tragically passed away. So they had that on top of everything. And look, the games are important, but then this puts everything into perspective. You hear people say that, but a life was lost, and just awful to hear that, man.
Yeah, it was a tragedy.
Mhm.
I don't know if they want the details out there. The news story, if you look it up, his name is there. So for those curious, but it's horrible. It's tragic. It's a nightmare situation what happened there. So obviously hoping for the best for his family and the program. And look, I was told by a source very close to the team that they literally found out on the bus ride going to Louisville. And that's like I don't know how they got through that game. So I saw on Twitter this weekend the good old U of L sheriff was making fun of Nick Mingione, and I usually just ignore that guy. He's I'm all good with being a fan, but he's said some pretty messed up stuff in the past. So I let him have it a little bit for that. Like that God only knows what Mingione and that program's gone through this week. I mean, you're talking about a 26-year-old and losing their life tragically criminal from the act of a criminal, essentially murdered. So it's just heartbreaking, wrenching, and this program's already got a lot on their shoulders, and
Exactly.
they're going to be playing with a heavy heart the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. So they'll head down this way to Knoxville this weekend, and life in SEC. Everybody's just tough games, tough series, tough teams. So, but like Tom Leach always says, you're on there with him the other day. It gives you an opportunity to enhance your resume. If you go down and take 2 out of 3 from one of these teams, well, that just puts you in a lot better position than you were. So they have opportunities to, and they've been going toe to toe with everybody. Just got to find a way to close some of these things out for sure.
That's exactly it, and we'll see if they can do it. Tennessee is not easy, that's for sure, especially in that little ball. I'm not making fun of the ballpark by any means, but especially in that ballpark, it ain't easy to hold them.
It makes the Philly stadium look like the Polo Grounds.
Yeah, literally, it's and just the way the wind is there, it's a little boom box. So it's a tough place to pitch. It's a tough place to pitch, and Tennessee's a really, really, really good baseball team.
Yes, they are. So we get it now to our spring showcase over the weekend. What were your takeaways from what you saw at Kroger Field Saturday?
Yeah, it was very similar to what you and the boys, that your sons that you brought out last year, experienced, right? Where there was no tackling to the ground. It was kind of 11 on 11, some thud. Mm-hmm. But got to kind of see where the depth chart is kind of shaping up. I thought Zach Calzada made some pretty good throws when he was in there. He wasn't in there, I think, only played 2 series, but he definitely clearly has the leg up on the starting job, and clearly seems to be the right guy for it right now. He's just ahead of the pack with Cutter Bully right now. Thought Kendrick Law had a good day again. We saw him have a really nice open practice. Dante Dowell was the running back that stood out. Offensive line creating holes was the biggest thing. I haven't seen many of those holes even in spring ball the last couple of years. So that was good to see. Obviously, it's a new defensive line for the most part. I mean, Khalil Saunders is back, but Dion, Octavius Oxendine, Trayvon Ripka, so many of the guys that have just become staples. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're gone. So, and then Josiah Hayes didn't participate. So, you saw a lot of new blood. There's just a lot of new blood, period, man. I mean, by the time they get to the summer, when all the rest of the freshman enrollees come in, and then, they're going to add some transfers here in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be over 40 players, new players. Wow. So about half a football team worth of new bodies. Mm-hmm. It's just insane, but they had to do it. When you have a really bad year, something's got to give, and that's the time and day we're living in. So, it was definitely, it wasn't the most exciting, I would say, but it was definitely, some things that caught the eye, and, more so in the offenses, when you're not tackling to the ground, it's hard to say, oh, this guy had a great day on defense, right? So I'd say Dante Dowell, Kendrick Law, Quisenberry, the kid out of Boyle County, was really good again too. So, some good stuff. And now it's all eyes on the lovely transfer portal.
Yes, it's getting to the attrition portion of the program. So
and they had to have some. They had to have some there. They were at, I think by my count, I had them at 88 scholarships heading breaking camp, which you're allowed. You could have as many scholarships as you want for the spring. You got to get it to, I think the numbers, it's still going to be 85. So you got to get it to 85. So Kentucky now with 7 guys out are down to 81, which means they could add 4 bodies. I definitely think they need an inside linebacker badly. I mean, Alex Safari's going to be in his first full year at that position. He's still, I love the kid. I mean, he's been one of the really big bright spots for this program the last 3 years, but I don't know. I didn't love how he played at inside backer last year, but they're rolling with it. Davian Rayner obviously redshirted last year after playing the first couple of games. He's a guy that, they're counting a lot on, and they're both under 220 pounds. And then, Grant Godfrey's a big time prospect that hasn't exactly panned out. And it's just, they're thin at inside backer. I'd assume one of those spots, and they're probably still more there's probably still more attrition to come, but I would think one of those spots is going to be inside backer. They had a lot of injuries at the receiver position this spring. I don't think any are serious, but they were down to 5 healthy scholarship receivers for the showcase. So I would think another one is needed there, especially because the True Edwards stuff with his eligibility is up in the air. And then I'm curious to see if they had another running back. You know, they have 4 scholarship, but Tavani Mazel is a guy that is still just, you know, he's coming off an ACL. He was working on the side all spring. I don't really know what, you know, he played in the Murray State game, but other than that, he didn't play at all last year. Jamarion Wilcox is still clearly number 3 behind Dowell and Patterson, which I guess he's still figuring it out off the field. I don't know. He's kind of a guy. I haven't heard anything, but I'm speculating. Like, I'm keeping my eyes on him, maybe portaling here. I wouldn't be shocked given the fact he clearly seems like number 3 on the depth chart right now. So running back's another position I'm looking at, but definitely inside backer, probably receiver, and then I still think they could use another corner. I just think they're, you know, you feel pretty good about Hardaway and Waller, to Ryan Nichols as well, but it gets a little thin after that.
And I mean, if he does what he says, he, you know, does Coach Bower, it's like, give me those scholarships. You know, that's what he said when he was on with us. So
yeah, and he's got, I think they only have 3 special teamers on Scully right now. They're obviously they have a kicker in Coway who, if all goes as planned, is your kicker for the next 4 seasons. Obviously, you know, we'll see what the coaching staff's future is for 4 seasons, but you know, he's got 4 years left, so you're probably not going to take another scholarship kicker. Maybe another punter because Laros is in his last year, and you got to plan for next year. And then you have a long snapper, McLaughlin, under scholarship. So Bulwer's got 3 scholars right now. And you're right. We'll see if they have any left over. But I think right now with 4 open, inside backer, maybe even 2 inside backers feels pivotal. Wide receiver, running back, and then corner are the positions I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, depth everywhere, but linebacker depth is just you gotta have it.
Yeah, you have to. And you know, and the thing is too, like, they haven't really lost the spring portal. That hasn't been, I'd say the only one that was like kind of, I wouldn't even say surprising, but annoying is, you know, Wallace and Bamba is the guy they bring in from New Mexico with starting experience at tackle and guard. Kind of he was clearly the number 2 right and probably left guard on the depth chart breaking spring practice. He got banged up in the showcase. I don't know exactly what happened. He did leave it injured. I don't really know the extent, but he's a guy that would have had a role, maybe not as a starter, but he definitely was a valuable piece that they needed. And they get him literally in December and they lose him in April. It's just
unbelievable.
I mean, I get he has 1 year left. He wants to start, but like, then don't come here. You came to a school that clearly you weren't going to start. So it is what it is. You know, I don't know. Not going to bash the kid too much. Who knows if there's something he's dealing with off the field. There's always, you know, sometimes there's just things we don't know. So,
yeah, sure.
You know, that one was a little bit, I'd probably say Kentucky's a little frustrated with that one. Not knowing the situation, but just from a pure football standpoint, that was a tough loss. But like, you know, no one else. Kendrick Gilbert, not really a true spot for him on that D line. Struggled to get the weight on that he needed to. Dennis Jackson, the defensive tackle, that was JUCO, was kind of a project piece that never popped. Jaquavius Marshall was a corner that redshirted last year, was hurt. So, you know, nothing too serious as far as subtractions go. Obviously, there hasn't been a Dane Key, Barryon Brown departure level going here, but you know, just some guys who were 3s and 4s on the depth chart outside of Mbamba.
That's it. That is it. So, man, appreciate your insights and up to the moment as it stands right now on both sides.
There hasn't been anything in this hour, or 45 minutes, which is pretty surprising, honestly, because you know, it's constant, man. It's crazy. I mean, world. It gets crazier each winter, or not winter, each spring. But the good news is the portal will be closed to new entries in 6 days for basketball and 10 for football. So we're almost there. And then by the time May or mid-May and June rolls around, you're almost bored. So I don't think the fans love it because there's some, you want to get attached to. I don't think it's good for the fans because you want to get attached to guys. You want to know who's going to be around. You want a nucleus. You want a core that you can build around and really just become, them be your guys.
Mm-hmm.
But you literally have to worry about all those guys becoming free agents. I mean, there's no one is safe. Like RJ Luis won freaking Big Ten Player of the Year, and he's on the market. Like it's just no one's safe. It's crazy. It's insane, but it's where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, freaking Nico hitting the portal. Like you could have given me 1,000 guesses on who's like, tell me who the biggest name in the spring portal was going to be, and it would have taken me 1,000 to get to him. Like it's crazy. No one's safe.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So we'll see what happens between now and next week. It'll be NFL Draft Eve, so you get to see what your Giants are going to do. So
Abdul Carter, please work Travis Hunter. Just don't take the quarterback. That's all I ask.
Yep, it'll be upon us. Talk about that. Fans are worried, and like you said, May and June get kind of boring. So then, I guess in July you'll have the La Familia, DeAndre Liggins and Doron Lamb will be there, so they get to watch that to kind of, that'll be a little something to look forward to as you wait for the season. So, but yeah, it's all happening right now, and then it'll be the big lull in the summer until football gets here, like it always happens. So
you're gonna be. Everyone's all worried and hanging on the portal stuff and every thread, and then you'll like miss it in June when there's no action. So but we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I trust. We haven't been given any reason on the basketball side not to trust things yet. They've had nothing but hits so far. Eventually, they're going to have a miss. It's bound to happen, but that hasn't quite happened yet. And then football, there's less to trust, I guess, but there's work to do.
That's right. So we'll come at y'all next week. Everybody stay safe. Go Cats. Enjoy your evening. Check Aaron out on the Cat's Paws. Check us out, You Believe Podcast Network. And watch and listen and rate and review, and we'd appreciate it. And we'll be back a week from now. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky. For Aaron, this is Vinny. We'll see y'all next time.